Let's talk about the Las Vegas RLE. I have the top 8 here on the screen. Kevin Broberg, of course, took down the win with Death Eraserhead. Very fitting that Season 2 of Competitive Play started with Jose Narono winning on Death Eraserhead and then ends with Kevin Broberg winning with almost the exact same list. I think there was 2-card difference, but we'll jump into that when we look at the deck lists. But, these are 2 of the best players in the game, maybe the 2 best players in the game. It's pretty hard to argue that either Kevin or Jose isn't at the very, very top of the game at the moment. Of course, Kevin is the reigning HLC champion, and now he's just won back-to-back regional license exams. Going into nationals, I think you have to say, Kevin's probably the favorite to win it all, maybe Jose. But again, Death Eraserhead starts with the win and ends with the win. Probably a list that we'll see quite a bit at nationals, just seeing that it has 2 out of 6 regional wins this year. Other than that, we only had a top 8 because there was only, I think, 45 players, maybe 47 players at the RLE. That was a lot fewer than I was expecting. I was expecting it to be pretty close to 100, just seeing that it's Las Vegas and there's a lot of players nearby. So a little disappointing to see only 45, although it does come at a bad time, right? Because we've got the EU Nationals next week, OC Nationals the week after that, and US Nationals October 20th through 22nd. So a lot of people are planning to travel for US Nationals, and so it's hard to ask people to travel twice in 1 month. Of course, they're going to prioritize Nationals above all else. So I think that's probably the primary factor going into the low attendance at the RLE. We started this year with, I think it was like 169 players at Florida. Gen Con still had a very, very solid amount, but it does feel like the in-person RLE attendance has kind of fallen off here. Maybe that's lack of price support. Maybe it's just lack of winning the RLE truly meaning a ton, because last year, the RLEs gave you points to make it to Worlds. So if you traveled a ton and you placed pretty well at the RLEs, you were going to get your Worlds invite. Right now, your Worlds invite pretty much entirely depends on how you do at Nationals. So everything just depends on these next 3 weeks. I'm not really sure what the answer is to get the attendance up. Maybe it's just RLE fatigue, because it feels like we've been having an RLE every single week. And of course, nationals. So I think that's the primary reason that factored into the low attendance here. I don't expect it to be a continuing thing going forward, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on why, we had lower attendance than normal. So that means that we only had top 8 instead of top 16, is the long story short. Top 8 is very, very cool. We don't see a single character repeated. We have this very, very, at least in terms of characters, diverse meta right now. Really, really neat going into nationals. I certainly don't expect any bans coming this Tuesday. I'm probably not even going to do a ban watch video, just because I would be absolutely floored if any ban came right before nationals. That said, while we do have this very diverse top cuts here, all of these characters and deck lists are pretty known quantities. Like we've seen Fire Rappa and Earth Overhaul, Chaos Amajiki, Earth Nomu, Void Midnight, Fire Tokoyami. These are all characters that have already topped, even Good Deku 2 topped at the webcam regional. So all of these characters have already topped a regional this year. A lot of these deck lists are variations on lists that have already topped. So we didn't see anything crazy come out in Las Vegas. Kind of surprising, because with a lower attendance, I would have expected a crazy deck to make it into top cuts. I suppose we did get Nicholas Reagan's deck with the it was running the double front beatdown, the 1-check. Very, very neat to see a 1-check make it into top cuts. But I think that's the biggest spice we have here in the top cuts. I do think this is about what we can expect going into nationals. You'll have your Eraserheads, Overhauls, Rappas, Amajikis. So it's I don't think we learned a ton from this RLE. I don't think we really learned anything new, other than this Death Eraserhead list is still very, very strong. All right, let's jump into deck lists. Here at 8th, we have TC. Of course, TC got 2nd place in the webcam event that also kicked this off. So very, very interesting that, Death Eraserhead defeated TC in the webcam RLE, and TC got 2nd. And here in the final event of Season 2, not only do we see Death Eraserhead win again, but we see TC make top cuts again. Very, very cool. Okay, so it's Nomu. I do see a few changes have happened since TC topped at the beginning of this season. Notably, Relentless Barrage is down to a 2 of. I think that was a 4 of, or at least a 3 of in his earlier list, although I can't quite remember. But it's all the way down to a 2 of. Very, very interesting. So I suppose you're just hoping for one to be in your discard, and hey, I'll just chain a Relentless Barrage into another Relentless Barrage, and that's good enough. I don't need to do this 3 or 4 times. Instead, we see Tetra Terror Onslaught really taking center stage in this list at a 3x, just being able to echo it. And then, if it deals damage, this is going to be for, let's see, 9 damage, and if it deals, then you get to go and pick up whatever you need here, whether that be a Hardened Jab or a Relentless Barrage, take your pick. It does have to be a 4-div, right? Yeah, it does have to be a 4-div. Of course, Muscle Maulers staying in the list. I see Talented Baker has made it in to overcome the speed, that plus Quick to Act. Very, very neat. So yeah, that was the main iteration that I saw, was just Relentless Barrage down to a 2 of, and Tetra Terror coming in. And then here in 7th, we have Dakota on Earth Overhaul. This is the second straight RLE where Good Mirio has not made top cuts, and it's the second straight RLE where Life Overhaul has not made top cuts. Instead, we've seen the Earth Overhaul. Since Maximum Overhaul has been legal, 3 out of the 3 Overhaul lists that have made top cuts have been running Maximum Overhaul. Again, we see it taking center stage with 3x here, 4x jab. We've got the male bondings and reconstructions so that we can build down face down attacks into our stage and always have them ready to pick up with Maximum Overhaul. Again, we see Muscle Mauler making it into the Earth lists. And pretty much that is it. Of course, Overhaul gets to take full advantage of Homage. I do find it interesting that Dakota's running 4x, taking the gloves off, has a very, very strong deadlock, and of course Flip to flip one of their committed foundations. And it's just a low block that Earth sometimes struggles for. Here we can see we've got very, very even block zones. Well, that was something I wanted to mention with TC's list too, is that it's 52 cards, but we're running 19 attacks. That makes this deck stability number pretty much, this is like the lowest I've seen in a while, I want to say, in a top cut list. 36.5% attacks. Of course, just overcoming being a 5-hander. All right, and then we have Nick's Good Midoriya 2 list. Of course, we're running this 4 of the 1-check double front beatdown. Very, very cool. It says, from your hand, add this card to your card pool, return this attack to its printed speed and damage. This is really cool against like Cannon Blast Jiro. They make this like 15 speed for 20 damage Cannon Blast, and you just say, whoop, from the hand, no check necessary, take that back down to printed. Very, very, very neat tech here. You just have to hope that you don't check the 1. A lot of times 1-checks just don't get played because people feel so negatively when they do check them. But, double front beatdown can win you so many games just by having that. You can either reset your own attack or you can do it on defense. Also, you just get this free build, which when you're also running Back Alley Haymaker, you're just building like crazy. Of course, we see Rejuvenating, Throttle, Assault, Texas. Nothing really else crazy in the attack lineup. I do really like this Practical Studies. I have been finding in my playtesting that this is an extremely strong foundation. I've been playing a lot of Life Nejire lately, and so Nejire doesn't add speed, and this just comes in handy, and it's got awesome deadlock on it. So in Midoriya 2, this is basically saying now everything is getting +2 speed, +3 damage until you take, until you half block or just eat one of these attacks, which in Midoriya 2 isn't going to feel good when he's slamming 3 damage onto everything. And other than that, this is your, I don't see anything else too crazy. 3 copies of Broken Psyche is pretty aggressive on that card. So we are just going all in on this reset strategy, right? Taking things down to 2 or taking things down to printed. Then we have Douglas with Fire Rappa. This is very, very similar to the list that we've seen. I can't remember I can't remember it, so I don't want to say it wrong. But very, very similar to the Fire Rappa list that we've seen. although we're changing out Big Appetite, we're changing out the draw power of Big Appetite, and it looks like we switched into Kirishima's Assistance. Makes sense because Kirishima's Assistance can stop like Faith Shield. At least I'm 99% sure. If that's not true, just, someone who knows the rules better than me, tell me down in the comments. But I'm pretty sure Kirishima's Assistance stops Faith Shield, which is a big deal in Rappa because you want to be able to echo your bullet punches and you don't want it to get flipped down. Just getting to seal their partial block. But we've still got the Big Appetites in the sideboard, so we can always just switch them out into Big Appetites for a little more aggression. But other than that, this is your typical 4 punch attack lineup. You got the Barrage, rapid punches. Of course, Barrage does really funny things with, the Barrage, bullet punches, prehensile tail is just a fun trio. And you got the Sugar Rushes for the damage. And then here we have Brandon on Void Midnight. This list reminds me a lot of Garrett's Void Midnight that topped just in Rochester a few weeks ago. Of course, we're playing the Uppercut, Rejuvenate Smash, Repeated Smash. We're also playing a lot of non-punches. We got this 4X Getting a Tour and then a lot of 1X cards, very similar to Garrett's, just something that the Void symbol can do exceptionally well. And just counting on having it when you need it. Then let's jump into Chaos Amajiki. Oh, I did want to point out, just because this 25, 25, 25 on the block zones. I love it when people have even block zones. I feel like, it just gives power to your deck. Oh, by the way, I'm watching the Chiefs-Jets game at the same time here. So if you see the TV screen on my face, that's what's going on. Right now, I do not know what Mahomes is doing. He has thrown some terrible interceptions. Okay, and then we have third place, William on Chaos Amajiki. This list was pretty neat in the sense that it's only 57 cards. Typically, we've seen Amajiki lists being running 60 to 70 cards and a lot more tech. Here we have 57 cards, 3X Sun Eater, the big 3. This is something that I really like. Now, I'm personally not a big Amajiki player, but I've always thought that Amajiki should be running more of this card because it just seems insanely strong. And so here we see it at a 3 instead of a 2 and a smaller deck list. An attack that kind of surprised me is typically we've seen Amajiki's 65 cards and they're running 1 copy of Seafood Slugger. Here we got 57 and we've taken it to 2 copies. Very, very interesting. I wonder if that was more for the first form to seal or just the... Oh, well, yeah, it was probably for the first form to seal because you just put it in there with Force Quirk activation. And you take down their biggest defensive piece. The card that was surprising to me was Training with Gunhead coming in here. Of course, Amajiki doesn't add speed. We've seen a lot of people running the... What is it? It's a Chaos 1 diff. It's a 2 high block. It says Destroy a Foundation, give it a speed. I can't think of the card name now. My brain is going blank. But so we've seen a lot of people running that, but instead we're choosing to run the low block Training with Gunhead. Of course, Vast Hybrid can activate it to give the speed. And we can have multiple Vast Hybrids in our momentum with Amajiki. And then it's just some throw hate when you need it. I do like running Adaptable because we're really lacking a lot of Deadlock in the list. But the Deadlock on Adaptable is just insane. And once again, you're overcoming the lack of speed that Amajiki gives. And then here in second place, we have Kobe on Fire Tokoyami. This is very similar to the Fire Tokoyami list that made top cuts, actually won Swiss rounds, but then it lost in the first round of top cuts at Gen Con. I think his name was Jacob Johnson, if I'm remembering correctly. If I'm not, I apologize. But very, very similar to that list. The main cards that we see from Undaunted Raid coming in are Lust for Battle and Season Brawler. Lust for Battle, just since Tokoyami's discarding the top 5 every single turn, also using Frigid Heat Wave. And so a lot of times you're discarding at least 8. You're going to see these Lust for Battles. It doesn't feel like a big deal to remove for -1 to the next check, but it ends up being a big deal in play more often than not, especially when you combine it for Twisting Azure. It just feels like the Fire Tokoyami is adding a lot more speed than you would expect between Summon Dark Shadow, Twisting Azure, and Lust for Battle. And then Sugar Rush power up, of course, just to make sure that we can get lethal and really add that damage on there. And we can get that, you know, since our discard pile fills up so quickly as Tokoyami, Sugar Rush is pretty much always online. And then we have the winning list here, Kevin Broberg on Death Eraserhead. This list is virtually identical to Jose's list. The only changes I can see are that the zero diff enamored, the 2 low block zero diff enamored, has been replaced with 1 copy of Forcing Surrender and 1 copy of League of Villains. League of Villains feels like an extremely strong card right now in the meta to be able to cancel and enhance, especially like canceling like a repeated 100% smash re-ready just feels awesome. And then Forcing Surrender, we're not really playing combos in this deck, so this top response, I suppose, is never really online, but it does come in handy with the discard a non-attack card from either player's card pool, especially when you're trying to string like crazy. You really don't want people adding, stuffing your card pool with like sticky balls or playing Mineta 2. So, it's not doing a ton in this list, but it is doing more than Enamored. Enamored was basically a blank foundation, just a 2 low block. It said like when you re-ready it, your attack is +1 speed, but I don't really see a way to re-ready it. So I'm pretty sure it was just a blank. So here we have something that's a lot of the times blank, but sometimes very, very strong and comes in handy, and League of Villains. Other than that, the primary thing in this list is we're going to go Twisting Azure Infernos. We're going to use our Erase. We're going to respond, get the 2 damage. We're just going to string out like crazy. We're going to Vile Seizing, draw a card. And then, around in the middle, we're going to Fierce Whirlwind, destroy half of our stage, ready half of our stage, and just keep going. And then we can finish it out with this Blinding Cloth Capture, which is basically a 3 diff, because if you've played an action, it gets -2 difficulty. And then you have the Grenadier Bracers. At that point, you've destroyed like 7 foundations. You commit Grenadier Bracers. Your last attack is +7 damage. And you can see how this gets very, very strong. Eraserhead sees 7, he's a 7-hander. When you really need, you can commit him to draw 2, and he gets to see 9 cards in a turn, very similar to like Toga 1 getting to see 9 cards in a turn cycle. And then he gets Learning to Harden to draw and add damage. We get Red Right's the Coolest to add damage. Brute Strength to also destroy your own stage. It's this very, very death list where you are just blowing up your stage, going all in on this string. It can be scary as Eraserhead, because if you don't kill them, like if you commit to a string, but you don't kill them, you are just so dead, on the backswing. And a lot of times you have to start your string without 100% information that you're going to kill them. Like you might be depending on a Learning to Harden or a Vile Seizing drawing you another attack, or, them not being able to block something, not having the cards in hand that they needed to play solid defense. It's a very, very scary list as Eraserhead, because one mistake with Eraserhead and you're just dead, but very, very strong. So huge congratulations to Kevin for closing out Season 2 with a win. Back-to-back regional license exams. Very, very impressive. I think this list we will definitely see, if not Kevin or Jose running it, we'll definitely see some people running this list. It's certainly proven now to be a winner, although it does require a very, very, very skilled pilot. So big congratulations to Kevin. That is going to do it for me. I will be back tomorrow with the top 10 deck lists that you can expect to see at Nationals and that you need to play test against to get prepared over the next few weeks.